well, then that's like the first job that you have, right? If you could never understand, then you need to fucking figure out how to understand. You need to get curious and ask more questions so that you can look at it from the perspective, because no one's mind is ever changed from the, well, you're an idiot because you believe XYZ.
Yeah, maybe subliminally this is why I chose this, because you shared this with me and I finished listening to it this week. But I think there is something that deepens your relationships and deepens the community around you when you decide that you're open and willing to understand and get curious.
Oh, sweet.
And no, I think that there is a depth that happens in your relationships when you decide that you're open and willing to understand others and their perspectives. And if you think about it from the lens of the Enneagram, that's really the basis of it, right? You have these tendencies in your core number, in your core motivation. And the sooner that we decide to get curious about those things, our relationships are so much more beneficial. And I mean beneficial from the depth, but also the joy that you get out of those relationships. That even when it is hard and you're really struggling to understand the other person, through that struggle, even though you're trying and you get on the other side, your relationship gets deeper.
Right. Well, providing both people are interested in
Right.
that. If it's one-sided, and we're not going to get into that, we are going to assume that this is in a mutual situation, but I just want to put that out there, right? If it's one-sided and you are always the one giving the benefit of the doubt, trying to understand, being curious, and the other side is meeting you with resistance, it will not deepen the relationship. Just, it won't. But then that is for you to then say, okay, this is that person's work and I am not responsible for it. I'm only responsible for trying to understand what I can. And so we would not advocate for you to be involved in things that are not healthy or are abusive in any sort of way. So I just want to put that out there of the,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And understanding people does not always mean forgiveness, by the way.
Right.
Like, there could be confrontation that comes out of trying to understand one another, and that doesn't always look like, talking to you nines, like, sorry, yep, my bad,
Yeah.
and avoiding the conflict. I don't want to confuse the two because they're not the same.
Right.
And conflict is important in getting into the depth and understanding of relationships. I'm curious about, so I'm a social subtype. I find it, generally speaking, unless I am stressed, I find it easier to try and understand different perspectives in the room. And that comes a little bit from the, I'm going to try and read the room. That's kind of my lead into that deeper understanding. I save the more in-depth curiosity for my closest relationships. There's a level of protection there. So I'm curious about, if we think about one-to-one subtypes, if you want to talk a little bit about that, and then how it might look for somebody in self-preservation.
Yeah. I think that, well, for me as a one-to-one subtype, I am most curious in a one-on-one setting or a one-on-one like conversation. It's easier to ask questions. For me, sometimes the curiosity gets lost in a larger group because there's too much happening and I feel like to deepen the relationship, I need to invest, and therefore in a large setting, I kind of am navigating weirdly and can't fully invest or ask as many questions, or, right? Like, we've all been in those situations where it's like, you like ask a question, but then somebody on the other side of the room has something to say. And so you don't really like get the full answer of the thing that you're curious about over here. Right. So that's for me in a one-to-one subtype where that part of it is easier for me one-on-one. I think, though, to the point of it's not just the curiosity in those social situations, but it's also the curiosity. And I think we talked about this a little bit in our last episode too, like in the pride and the questioning. It's also that, right? It's the questioning of myself of like, why did when so and so said this thing, it make me feel this way? And having that sort of developing that understanding of myself also. Because it is true, the more you understand yourself, the easier it becomes to sit with other people and be curious.